Do you think we have more genetically altered creatures than we do cryptids?
Well, I don't know, because it depends on what you mean by a cryptid, right? Like, I thought for the longest time, I didn't realize that narwhals were a real thing.
Really?
Why would I know that?
Where is Savannah?
East Coast.
It's on the East Coast.
Yeah, Sherman marched to the sea. I think he wound up in Savannah.
Oh, that makes sense.
I think.
Probably something we should look up before we start the podcast.
Probably be helpful, yeah.
Oh, hey, welcome back to Creeps, Crimes, and Cryptids, brought to you by Ghost City Tours, the world's #1 ghost tour company. Go to ghostcitytours.com to take a ghost tour in cities all over the country today, especially in the city that we're talking about today, Savannah, Georgia. Like every episode, we're going to give you a story, a creepy story, a crime-ridden story, and some sort of folklore legend story of talking about a cryptid. Hence the title, Creeps, Crimes, and Cryptids. And of course, as normal, we'll probably teeter off and start talking about some other random stuff. But, you know, you're here for the fun, you're here for the stories, and we have some good ones for you today. Here, with, as always, with my buddy Paul. And we're starting off with a creepy story. Paul, what do you got for us to start off?
All right, so to start us off, we have the Sorrell-Weed House. Did I pronounce it right this time?
I think you did.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so the Sorrell-Weed House is a very dark story, and it's very messed up, which is why we're doing a second take here.
I should have done a more somber intro.
I will do it in more of the way that the gravity of the story requires. So, the Sorrell-Weed House was built for a guy named Francis Sorrell, and he, tragedy befell the house at the beginning, let's say.
Okay.
Because Sorrell's first wife, she died of yellow fever.
Ugh.
Not a great fever. Killed a lot of people. But, that didn't keep Francis down because he married her sister.
Huh.
Which is fine.
Small town.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that. Not a lot of options. Unless, of course, you were like Francis, where he, so story goes, Francis decided that he was going to, como se dice, assault and murder a slave.
Oh.
The certain kind of assaulting.
It starts with an R?
Yeah, that's the word. And then his wife found out about it, and she decided to take a little swan dive off the third story of the house down into the courtyard below. Some people claim that the slave was actually not murdered, that the slave either hung herself or was murdered by, angry people when they found out what happened. The actual somewhat facts of the case seem to be that Sorrell sold the house to another guy named Weed, which is how this house gets its name, and then Sorrell moved his family into the house next door, where Sorrell's wife actually didn't do the jump off. She didn't do it at the actual house. She did it at the house next door. But yeah, so that's the story. The ghostly part of it, the spooky, creepy part of it, outside of people being killed. People claim that they have seen floating candlesticks in the house. They feel a dark energy in the basement. And at one point, they actually thought that there were human remains underneath the floorboards of the carriage house.
Thought they were.
They did, yeah. They thought there were, but when they pulled up the boards, it was a bunch of trash.
Okay. So people go to this house to investigate hauntings?
Yeah, people go there a lot. They walk around. They see things in mirrors. They see floating candlesticks.
As you do.
Which is, pretty weak sauce from a ghost, I got to say.
Sure.
If you're going to do some stuff, you should do more than just...
Well, is the other house haunted?
It's not the topic of this podcast, so I didn't research it. But okay. That's the Sorrell-Weed House. It's one of the most notoriously haunted houses in America. And we talk about it on a Ghost City tour. I can tell you that much.
Ooh, okay.
And you get a lot more details than what I just gave.
Let's pull the curtain a little bit in researching some of these topics that we do. You're talking about like what has been kind of confirmed, what is truth and what isn't truth. Is it kind of hard? I know the answer, but for our audience, is it kind of hard trying to decipher what is real and what is not real when it comes to these creepy stories, at least?
Yeah, of course. Because perception is reality, right? So some people, I don't believe in ghosts. Mm-hmm. I've never had an experience that makes me believe in ghosts, even in working here. And I believe that people believe, and I believe that people have experiences that they cannot explain. So it is how much of this stuff is in somebody's head, how much of it is something that you've actually experienced, I don't know. And then if you're talking about the actual history of it, in this particular instance, we're talking about the potential murder of a slave. And it's not exactly like, frankly, in the early 1800s, they were keeping great records of how they mistreated their slaves. So it is definitely difficult to find out what is true and what is not, which is something that our company does pride itself on, making sure that we're not telling, as our CEO often likes to say, we're not telling stories of zombies coming out of graves eating babies.
Right.
But I mean, I can tell you about this particular instance. I wrote it down here that at one point, Sorrell was the quote unquote caretaker to 10 mixed race children. So it does seem that he partook.
Yeah. Well, take that as you will, folks. And if you would like to go on a ghost tour in Savannah, Georgia, tell them where they can go, Paul.
They can go to ghostcitytours.com, because at ghostcitytours.com, we don't just do ghost tours. We do really good ghost tours.
That's a good tagline.
Thank you.
Put it on a t-shirt. Go to ghostcitytours.com. Find out much better storytellers than Paul and I here on the Ghost City Tour in Savannah. We've got a bunch of options. I believe Savannah was where GCT started.
That is where GCT started. It is, yes. It's one of the most haunted cities in America. It's a beautiful town right there on the water, I believe. I think. I'm not good at geography. But a lot of ghosts in Savannah, a lot of spooky things, a lot of history. All
right, let's move on to our next topic. It's time to talk about a crime, Paul. And it's before we get in there, you mentioned in the ad break that Savannah's on the water. I feel like that is pretty consistent with some of the most spookiest cities in America: New Orleans, Galveston, Savannah, all water based.
Yeah,
I wonder what water has to do with spooky towns.
Yeah,
no theories.
I mean, so I'm trying to come up with a joke, but I don't have one. There's, I don't know. There's a lot of port cities, sailors coming in and out. What are they doing? What was, just sailors looking for a good time.
All right. So what's the crime?
All right. We're going to talk about Danny Hansford today.
Hansford. All right.
All right. So in 1981.
Ooh, long ago.
Long time ago. I can still remember. Danny Hansford's playing a video game, right? In the
Pong?
1980s. I don't know. Probably not Pong in the 80s. I feel like we were past Pong then, right?
I think so.
What do you got? You got Duck Hunt? Was Duck Hunt around in the 80s?
Couldn't tell you. If only we had a producer who could look that up. No, don't do that.
All right. Well, Jim, I'm sorry. Yeah, Danny's playing a video game, and into the room comes a fellow by the name of Jim Williams.
Okay.
So Jim Williams was the owner of the house. He was a fella in his 50s, and Danny at the time was 21. And as the police at the time referred to it, Jim and Danny were sexual partners, which was a euphemism in the 1980s for they were a gay couple. So they get into an argument. We've all gotten into arguments with our significant other over the years. And over the course of the argument, old Danny Hansford decides he's going to knock over an 18th century grandfather clock, which I imagine Mr. Jim Williams didn't care for, because it was probably an expensive clock. I don't know. I don't know what grandfather clock goes for, but it's probably pricey.
Yeah.
So they keep fighting, they keep arguing, they keep going back and forth, bickering, if you will. And then old Danny Hansford comes into another room after Jim has stormed off, and he pulls out a gun on him. And he's gonna shoot him, I guess is what the plan was there.
Typically what you do with a gun, I imagine.
Well, then his gun jams. So old Jim Williams pulls out a gun of his own, because it's Savannah in the 80s. And he proceeds to shoot Danny Hansford, killing him. So 30 minutes later, he calls the police. I don't know what he was doing in those 30 minutes, but he decided he was going to hang out with the corpse, I guess, for half an hour.
Oh, you're probably stirring.
Yeah, I was thinking about the grandfather clock. Thinking like, man, I got to call the guy to get that repaired. It's going to cost me a pretty penny.
And I just unalived a guy.
Yeah, that happened. Got to deal with that now. So that's not fun. So old Danny claims it was self-defense. So Jim claims it was self-defense. Danny was dead. He didn't say anything about it. So Jim gets tried 4 times. Okay,
Four times.
4 trials. The first one, he gets convicted. They say self-defense. That's a bunch of crap. You're going to jail, so he gets life in prison. Right. So he appeals this because apparently old Jim had a lot of money. And he gets off on a technicality because the arresting officer had written something down wrong, whatever. But, you know, the state of Georgia decides they're going to keep getting their man, so they're going to try him again. So they go to the second trial, right? And in the second trial, Jim pulls the Kevin Spacey defense, which is, hey, it's okay that I killed a guy because I'm gay. And in 1981, that didn't work.
I don't know if that was quite the Kevin Spacey defense.
I mean, no, I'm just saying Kevin Spacey killed a guy. I'm not saying that he did that. But it was his defense for some nefarious deeds, which, you know, it's not a great defense,
No.
to be honest with you.
No.
And it didn't work because they decided to give him life in prison again. But he appealed again, and yet again, he got off on the appeal. So they go for the third trial. The moral of this story is at first you get convicted of murder. Try again. Because the third trial...
That's on the slogan of the courthouse in Georgia.
The third trial winds up with a hung jury because one lady says, I think there's some reasonable doubt here. And so they let him out of there. They wind up moving the fourth trial out of Savannah because they're like, this is a tainted jury pool. And they bring it to Augusta, Georgia. And on the fourth trial, Jim gets acquitted.
Perseverance.
God love him, you know?
So is
He murdered a guy.
Well, according to the state, no.
Self-defensed a guy. And got away with it.
So is Jim still kicking around these days?
So 8 months later, Jim drops dead.
Oh.
In the same room that he offed Mr. Danny Hansford.
Huh. Interesting.
Poetic, you might say.
How long were these trials going on for?
8 years, I believe. 8 or 9 years, something like that.
I feel it's more of a story of the judicial system.
I mean, that is what a crime involves, you know? Sometimes you just, you know, I think it's a story of perseverance. I think it's a story of the American dream. I think it's a man with a dream. A man who said, hey, this guy destroyed my 18th century grandfather clock. And for that, I should be able to get off.
You know, there was a kid who was friends with my brother growing up, and they were playing hide and seek, and he accidentally knocked over my dad's beautiful upright bass. And I could remember the sound of it cracking, of the sound of the neck going, and had to get it restored. But point is, I'm proud of my father for not, you know, that kid.
He didn't shoot the kid and then take 4 trials to get off?
No.
Well, your father doesn't have the kind of money that Jim had.
So he was gonna, but then they looked at his bank account and was like, I can't swing it.
I can maybe get 2 acquittals. You know, 2 overturnings of my conviction.
Wow.
But not 4.
Yeah, a true story of the American dream. And it might be your dream to go on a ghost tour. And luckily, we don't just have ghost tours in Savannah, as great as they are. Paul, tell them where else we have some ghost tours.
We have ghost tours all across the United States. We're in just under, I believe, 50 cities now. Not only do we have ghost tours, we have family-friendly ghost tours, adults-only ghost tours. Hell, we've even got pub crawls for you alcoholics out there.
Woo!
Go to ghostcitytours.com right now and book yours today.
All right, it's time for our final segment. We're talking about a cryptid native to southern Georgia, of course, in the Savannah area. Like you said, it's close to the water. And that brings up the Altamaha. I believe I said that right. Otherwise known as Alti.
Okay.
It is indigenous to the Altamaha River in southeastern Georgia. It's a river flows into the Atlantic near Darien, Georgia. Swampy tidal river system here, Paul, with brackish water, similar to the many of the waterways that we have here in South Louisiana. Deep channels, heavy vegetation, limited visibility. That's important. It's going to come into play later. And now it's an area historically inhabited by the Muskogee. I believe I said that right. Muskogee? Muskogee, thank you. And there's other indigenous tribes from that area, which, you know, they had stories of river monsters and whatnot. But it had this Alti, right? It had a long serpentine body like a sea serpent, 16 to 30 feet in length, often exaggerated. It's sturgeon-like, an eel-like body. Like sturgeon kind of has that like prehistoric kind of look to it. Have you ever seen like a sturgeon type of fish?
I've not seen this. What does a sturgeon look like?
It looks, if I had the screen pulled up, you'd be able to see it, but I'm having some technical difficulties. But it definitely looks kind of prehistoric, almost like a gar.
Okay.
You know?
Sturgeon Simpson, got it.
Got kind of like, you know, some ridges, a little bit almost like a gator on the back. Look, there you go.
Oh, okay. So it's a 16-foot long ribbed for fish.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
Okay.
Alti is completely different.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
It's just sturgeon-like. Or like, you know, serpentine, like an eel. It had flippers or small limbs in some accounts, humps visible above the water, dark gray or brown coloring to it. Now, this is important. The descriptions are pretty inconsistent, but this is typical amongst river folklore.
Sure.
Some reports describe a creature moving in undulating snake-like motion. I don't know if I said
Undulating.
undulating.
Nice word.
A rolling movement through the water, as some might say.
Oh.
Now, there's some documented sightings, and here's a little timeline for you. Of course, I mentioned how the early indigenous lore came about. Local tribes reportedly had river monster stories, but there's nothing written pre-colonial era. There's no documentation, but oral traditions were passed down over the years. In the 19th century, though, newspaper mentions of river monster started happening along the Georgia waterways, but this was likely part of the broader sea serpent reporting. It was like sea serpent mania that was happening in the late there's a trend during the 1800s, early 1900s. A lot of this was started in New York. There's a big famous river monster that I can't remember the name of it. But as people were trying to, you know, get papers printed and whatnot, you know, then the story would pop up in New York, and then just a few days later, you'd get it as far as like Georgia in the newspapers over there. And, you know, some of this, of course, was probably ways to, you know, push those newspapers, some exciting stuff. And also archaeology was early in that time. You know, they didn't even find the giant squid yet. That was just a piece of lore. So if that existed, then maybe two of these sea serpent type creatures existed as well.
Love it.
Now, in the 1920s to the 1930s, there was increased regional reports. Fishermen claimed to see large, strange creatures surfacing, Paul. Now, in the 1980s, 1981 specifically, there was multiple sightings reported near Darien, Georgia. Witnesses claimed 20 to 30 feet long creatures with several humps above the water, slowly moving, but they were large-bodied. Sketches made were based on eyewitness testimony. Then in the 1990s to the 2000s, there were sporadic reports continuing. There was no physical evidence recovered, though, and no confirmed biological samples. Now, there's never been a captured specimen, verified carcass, or clear photographic proof. Do I have you so far?
I'm there. How big is this river?
Couldn't tell you. Look it up. The Altamaha River.
Good luck spelling that one.
Now, here's the reported temperament of Alti, right?
Uh-huh.
Unlike aggressive lake monsters and other folklore, there's no documented attacks on humans, no livestock killings attributed to it, like the grunch. And they're mostly described as shy, reclusive, elusive, and avoidant. Yeah, around the water. Most sightings describe it as surfacing briefly and then, you know, going back down, briskly moving through the water, or actually slowly moving through the water, like real serpentine-like.
You keep saying serpentine. I got it. It's like a snake.
I really like saying serpentine. Serpentine?
I think it's serpentine.
Okay.
Like turpentine.
It was more like a mysterious presence than a predator. So here's some examples of explanations to why this is most likely not a real thing. Now, there's a lot of, once again, serpentine fish. They're a native to this river.
I hate you.
They have an old, ancient-looking body, Paul. So, you know, as in these murky waters, you see stuff. It could also be an alligator or an actual, you know, sturgeon-type fish.
Sure.
Like I said, probably alligators that are indigenous to the waterways of southern Georgia. And when partially submerged, as you know, living in South Louisiana, yeah, you can see the ridges in the eyes.
Yeah.
But not much else. Also, there's optical illusions in murky water, Paul.
How dirty is this water?
Some dirty water. Not as dirty as Galveston, but pretty dirty.
Why are people in this dirty water?
I mean, we fish in dirty water.
So there's just a bunch of drunks in dirty water looking at alligators and claiming they see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in these deep river systems, this is what you get in a lot of folklore, Paul. You get misidentification.
Sure.
People, maybe they're hitting the ale and they see stuff and they just can't identify it. But I think the fact that we've never found a carcass or photographs of this animal would probably say that it doesn't exist. Thoughts?
Well, okay. Moving us to a different part of the country.
Okay.
But I'll tie it back in, I promise. The Montauk. You familiar with Montauk?
Sure.
Are you actually familiar with Montauk? You're just
No.
saying sure. So Montauk, from my primitive understanding of things, is off of I think Staten Island, maybe. Check that for me.
I think that's the river monster I was alluding to.
Ah, okay. A couple of years ago, they had this thing wash up on the shore of the beach of Staten Island. I think it was Staten Island.
Tip of Long Island.
Long Island, whatever. It's in New York. They're all the same. Anyway, we don't have any listeners in New York. What difference does it make? And even if we did, they're not getting this far into the podcast. So
Just waiting for one.
just one angry New Yorker to be like, Long Island's nothing like Staten Island, you fuck. Send this to my cousin up there. So yeah, they had this the Montauk was supposedly this government facility where they were doing all these experiments and stuff, right? And then they had this thing wash up on shore that looked like a cross between a seal and a dog, but it didn't have any hair. It was like a freaky, weird thing, you know? And I mean, I feel like you go into some of the declassified government stuff and some things like familiar with the humanoid mice?
No.
Oh, dude. This is really what the show should be, because I feel like I keep looking up things and I don't really, I'm trying to understand something that I don't in 5 minutes. Humanoid mice. So this is some wild shit. So the federal government gives grants. Officially, the United States government doesn't do any of this, right? Because the government can't have its grubby little hands dirty. So what they do is they write grants to different scientists, right? And the scientists will go out and do these weird experiments and things. And that's how you wind up with a global pandemic, allegedly. But humanoid mice, right? So it's basically they are morphing human DNA into mice. So you can actually, you can find it online. You can grow like human body parts on mice. And the official reasoning for this is that, let's say you lost, say, an ear, right? I'm bringing this up because I've actually seen the videos of the friggin' humanoid mice with an ear growing on its back. They can grow body parts in the mice, right? Or you could grow a human heart, right? So there's all kind of weird stuff, and this is just the stuff that we know about, right? You go into even just deeper levels of things, like into the levels like MK Ultra, right? Something like 90% of the MK Ultra files were destroyed by the federal government, illegally, I might add, allegedly. So we only know a very, very brief surface scratching amount of the amount of insane stuff that they did. And that's just some insane things. So who's to say that this river monster, to bring it back to Savannah, maybe it's a weird government experiment gone wrong, right? I mean, Savannah's not that far from Jekyll Island, which is where they got together and created the Federal Reserve, which then ultimately caused us to get off of the gold standard and tanked our economy, and so your paper money is useless.
There's also a giant CDC facility in Atlanta.
There is, which is also not far away. One of the few places in the world that still houses polio, even though it's been completely eradicated from the entire world, except for allegedly in parts of northern Iraq in the mountains, even though we haven't found it in 50 years. But, for some reason, we've decided to hold on to the bubonic plague and polio in a lab in Atlanta.
I like Atlanta.
Sure you do. There's a Coca-Cola factory. Waffle House started there. I'll give you that.
Six Flags.
There's a Six Flags in Atlanta? That's something.
Area.
Listen, all I know is it takes 4 hours to get anywhere in Atlanta, and I fucking hate it.
Yeah, that's annoying. Do you think we have more genetically altered creatures than we do cryptids?
I think that, I would buy... Well, I don't know, because it depends on what you mean by a cryptid, right? I thought for the longest time, I didn't realize that narwhals were a real thing.
Really?
Why would I know that?
I don't know. You ever seen Elf?
Yeah, I thought it was like a cryptid thing. Why would a whale have a horn? I was like, it's like a unicorn whale. That's dumb. And then I was talking to my wife. She was like, that's a real thing. And I was like, no, it's not. And she showed me a picture of it, which now, I mean, who's to say? Because you got freaking AI, right? I don't know what the hell is real or not. Maybe it was an AI narwhal. Have you ever seen a narwhal?
Not in person, but I remember as a kid seeing pictures of narwhals in a textbook.
Or maybe it's like the Mandela effect.
Ooh.
Maybe you're remembering things that don't exist, like the cornucopia on the Fruit of the Loom logo.
Is this what it's like being married to you? You just gaslight?
All night. I gas lamp her all night long, dude.
You just said gas lamp.
What? Like, okay, so I think there's a, you know, like Tim believes with Bigfoot, like I believe that there's probably shit out there that we haven't discovered yet. I mean, shit, Lewis and Clark thought they were going to find a fucking unicorn when they came across America, if you believe that story. But, you know, they didn't. Or maybe they did. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. That's the point. But so there could be these cryptid things out there, or maybe, you know, the government is making weird man, mice, human hot clone hybrid things, and maybe Jeffrey Epstein cloned himself, and that's the real body that we saw was Epstein's clone, and that's why he's still alive, living in the UAE.
Huh. Makes you think. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining this week's episode of Creeps, Crimes, and Cryptid. I believe we teased last episode that we're going to be talking about Phoenix on this episode, but instead we did Savannah. So, Paul, give them a city that we'll most likely not talk about next week, but it surely is a city that we do tours in.
Well, I'll tell you where we do tours. We do tours in a bunch of different cities. One of them is San Antonio, which is a lovely little town in Texas. A lot of bumsies, but outside of that, it's a great place to hang out.
All right, so tune in next week where we may or may not be talking about a creep, a crime, and a cryptid in San Antonio. Until then, leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz. We'll see you next time.
The stories, theories, and opinions shared on Creeps, Crimes, and Cryptids are those of the hosts alone and do not necessarily reflect the views of Ghost City Tours, living, dead, or otherwise.